welcome to the Battle Camp. If you're a first-time viewer, please subscribe. And generally, if you're just watching, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'd also appreciate a little bit of support if you like and comment, and also share this video. So the reason I'm making this video is, oh, my voice went funny there. The reason I'm making this video is because I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days. It's almost like a conspiracy theory. But I don't think Wilder will fight Anthony Joshua in the next year or so. I can't see it happening. And I'm not saying that Wilder is kind of ducking Joshua, although from a sporting sense you could perceive it that way. I'm kind of looking at the situation from a business point of view, specifically from the PBC's point of view. So here goes my theory. Now, if I record this, because it's the first time I'm going to say it out loud, and then I listen back to it and think, for fuck's sake, you're talking absolute bollocks. This won't make YouTube. So if you're watching this, it means I've listened to it again and I've agreed with myself, which isn't very hard to do. Anyway, so Wilder, Joshua, Fury. So I think the PBC saw the numbers that came back for the fight between Wilder and Fury, and I think they were pleasantly surprised by that. I think they felt that the fight done better than they thought it would, and I think they've seen a growth in Deontay Wilder's profile in the mainstream of American media. I think that he's becoming a better known boxer than he was before the Fury fight. I actually think the fact that this fight was a draw and the way it played out played into the favour of PBC. Why? Because if Wilder had knocked Fury out, then there would be nowhere else to go. He'd have to kind of fight Joshua. On the other hand, if Fury had beaten Wilder, then the train kind of would have had to stop, and they would have had to rebuild, if that makes sense. So now Wilder essentially has two options, two viable options, to fight Joshua or to rematch Fury. Now I think the higher risk fight out of these two is Anthony Joshua. Why? Because there's a possibility that Wilder can get knocked out. If he was to lose to Fury, it would most likely be on points, and you can always come back. It's easier to come back from a decision loss than it is to come back from a clean knockout, if that makes sense. So at this stage, I think it's less of a risk for Wilder to fight Tyson Fury. I'm not saying there's a better chance of him beating Fury, because I think Wilder has a good chance of beating Joshua, because I think Wilder has a good chance of knocking Joshua out, just the same way I think Joshua has a good chance of knocking Wilder out. So I hope you're following me up until now. But this isn't my theory. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking at the moment. So this whole theory is predicated on Wilder fighting Fury and beating Fury. Now, the fight between Wilder and Fury isn't, or the rematch between Wilder and Fury isn't a done deal yet. I just saw an interview earlier on today between Ben Davison and Rob Tevitt from Boxing Social. So if you're not subscribed to that channel, go and subscribe to it. It's a really good channel based in the UK, where they do really good interviews with boxers, trainers, promoters, etc. And the thing that Ben Davison, who is Tyson Fury's trainer, he said, we want 50-50 in a fight with Wilder, and I believe they're not scared to walk away from the negotiation table. And I think that the PBC need Wilder to be in a meaningful fight, and the only two meaningful fights out there for him at the moment are Joshua and Fury. So I think they'll do everything in their power to make that fight happen. Now, when that fight happens, obviously this, like I said, this theory is predicated on Wilder fighting Fury and beating Fury. So let's, for argument's sake, fast forward a few months and Wilder's beaten Fury. I think what the PBC will do then is they have a stable of very, very, very good fighters. The problem that they have is they don't have a single standout pay-per-view star. What I mean by that is they don't have a fighter in their camp that is a pay-per-view fighter regardless of who he's facing. I think what the PBC will be doing over the next year or 18 months is trying to build the profile of their main fighters. So what I'm talking about there is Garcia, Spence, Thurman, Porter, the other Garcia, so Mikey, and so when I said the first Garcia, it was Mikey who's going to be fighting Spence, and then sorry, yeah, so you got the welterweight Garcia, and then you've got the Charlo brothers, you've got Davis. So you've got a real good core of fighters that either have been world champions or are current world champions. And they need to start building these guys so they can start headlining their own pay-per-views. I think the strategy that these guys are going to deploy, when I say these guys, I mean the PBC, I think what they're going to be doing over the next year to 18 months is having shows where Deontay Wilder is headlining in the main event against competitive opposition, top 10 opposition, people like Dominic Brazil, and other kind of top 10 heavyweights that you can that do pose a threat, but you'd have to say that Deontay Wilder is a heavy favourite against. And then what I think they're going to do is scatter the undercard with the names that I mentioned earlier. Obviously, you wouldn't stick all of them on the undercard, but you know, on one of the undercards, you'd put 2 or 3 of them on, and then in a few months when Wilder fights again on pay-per-view, you'd put another 2 or 3 of them on the undercard, and have those guys in competitive fights, but fights where they're the favourites, where you'd expect them to win. So rather than promoting a fight, which is a main event, and this is the pay-per-view fight, I think they're going to start promoting events similar to the UFC. So there's been a number of UFC cards over the years where I've been like, that main event, I'm not really that interested in it. I won't stay up till 6 o'clock in the morning just to watch that one particular fight. But when the undercard's stacked, I'd say, you know what, that's a good night of fights. I'm going to stay up and watch all that. And from an American point of view, you might be like, oh, that main event, I'm not going to spend $80 on that. But when there's an undercard with 2 or 3 other good fights on there, you'd say, you know what, that's quite good value. I'm going to spend $80 and I know I'm going to be in for a treat because there's a number of good fighters and good fights that I'm likely to enjoy. Does that make sense? So I think personally, and again, I wish and I hope I'm wrong. I hope come the summer, we open up Instagram one morning and we'll see it's on Tyson Fury, although Tyson Fury would be good, but Anthony Joshua vs Deontay Wilder. I really hope it happens, but I don't think it will. I think what we're going to see the PBC do is build their pay-per-view events off the back of Deontay Wilder. I think he's the closest person that you guys have in the States that fights in the PBC camp. He's the closest one to be a pay-per-view star, in my opinion. And I might be wrong because I don't live over there in the States. But I think that what the PBC will be doing moving forward is trying to raise the profile of the fighters to create pay-per-view stars. And to create these pay-per-view stars, they need to put them on shows that people are interested in. And to create interest and to kind of create pay-per-view shows, I think they're going to need to start grouping these guys together and putting them on cards together for consumers to feel like they're getting value for money effectively. And I think this is a reason that no one's really spoken about, and there hasn't really been anyone with this point of view that I've seen on YouTube or anywhere else for that matter. So you know what, I may be wrong, but this is what I'm thinking at the moment, because personally I can't see why Wilder won't take the Joshua fight. Even on a 60-40 split, that 40% is double, triple what he's earned in a single fight before. Now, if you really genuinely in your heart of heart think that you can beat Anthony Joshua, why wouldn't you do it? Like, why wouldn't you go there, take the belts and come home and know that I'm a pay-per-view star for sure now here in the States? I think the way they've seen the Joshua fight is high risk, and I think when they do come to position, in 12 or 18 months, when Wilder's had a couple of pay-per-view defenses against someone that isn't Joshua or Fury, they'll have enough evidence or enough numbers to back up them saying to Joshua, this is what I can generate, this is the money that I bring to the table, these are the numbers that I do, so now I'm the A side. Does that make sense? So yeah, this is what I believe. This is just an opinion that I have. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I'm not married to this opinion. I don't want to see it play out like this, but I can foresee this happening. I can foresee the PBC building events off the back of Wilder fighting top 10 opposition, people that he's going to go through, unless there's a big upset, and then manoeuvring Wilder into a position where he's a pay-per-view star, building the profile of the other fighters off the back of that, and trying to kind of, this current generation who are very talented, trying to create stars out of them. So yeah, this is something that's been milling around in my head over the last few days, weeks, when I've been kind of trying to work out why the Joshua Wilder fight ain't happening, why Team Wilder aren't responding to offers that Eddie Hearn is making, why they're not coming to the negotiation table to make this fight happen. I think the reason why they're hell-bent on getting the Fury rematch is to help build Wilder's profile, and I think that over the next year you're going to see pay-per-views with a number of PBC fighters fighting on the undercard with Wilder headlining. Let me know what you think about this. Please share your comments, thoughts, etc. I'm more than happy to hear you say to me that I'm talking utter bollocks, I'm talking complete shit, and give me valid reasons as to why you think this. Again, this is just speculation. I'm just speculating. I'm just thinking out loud. This isn't a fact. I'm not trying to say to you, Wilder's ducking Joshua and this is why he's ducking Joshua, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to say to you, this is a theory as to why the Wilder and Joshua fight won't happen in the foreseeable future. Anyway, thanks for listening. I appreciate you if you've got this far. And I'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.